Hi everyone, welcome to Virtual Muse AI, a show where, among other things, I undertake games with a creative AI chatbot I've taught to play RPGs with.
That's me, Abbie Drake. Today, we're continuing the 2024 Solo RPG Challenge, where we use each month's prompt as a basis for a one-shot game. The prompt for October is Random Images. What ideas do you have in mind for the RPG Challenge this month?
I was thinking we could use Uber RPG Steampunk. It's a great game from Uber Goober Games. The rulebook was published in 2011. Here's what it says on the back. Welcome to a world of mad inspirational wonders and wild scientific theory wrapped in fog, run by gears and lit by gaslight. Steampunk is a venue for adventure, no doubt about that, with science and technology unhindered by the laws of physics, with societal norms from any culture past, present, or future, with only as much historical accuracy as fits the whims of the moment. It's a realm where anything is possible, under the guise of skimming whatever we want from an idealized or grossly imperfect version of the 19th century. Uber RPG Steampunk can be played as a tabletop role-playing game or a live-action role-playing game, and provides all the tools and background you need to enter this retro-futuristic universe with just as much potential for light-hearted adventure as it has for deep dives into the psyche of that dark and harshly split world. It isn't meant to be a solo game, but as we've seen, any RPG can be played solo, so it doesn't really matter if it was intended that way or not. Because the challenge prompt for this month is Random Images, I ordered a deck of random picture cards from Temu.
A steampunk theme sounds like a lot of fun, and I love the idea of incorporating random picture cards into our game. It'll add an extra layer of unpredictability and creativity. Are you planning on drawing a certain number of cards at the beginning of each session, or using them as needed throughout the story?
I was thinking they could fill the role of an oracle. That is, whenever we encounter uncertainty or want a yes-no question answered, we can draw a random image card and interpret it in context to get direction.
That's such a cool idea. Using the cards as an oracle will definitely keep things interesting and spontaneous. It'll add surprises to our story and make each session unique. I can't wait to see how it all unfolds. What kind of characters are you thinking about? Any specific traits or backgrounds in mind?
I'm not sure. We definitely want our characters to fit with the steampunk vibe.
Steampunk is all about blending science and fantasy. We could create characters who are inventors, scientists, or explorers, with a mix of technological and mystical abilities. What do you think about choosing a social class or occupation as a starting point for our characters?
How about aristocratic explorers who have a high social standing when they come home to the city, but they chafe at that life and prefer the freedom of sleeping under the stars and roaming the wilderness?
I like that idea. As aristocrats, they'd have access to resources and connections that would aid them in their adventures, but their desire for freedom would drive them to take risks and push boundaries. Maybe we could give them some personal demons or family obligations that they're trying to escape or overcome. How about my character feels pressured to uphold family traditions and marry into another aristocratic family? She craves adventure and wants to explore the world instead. This conflict could fuel her desire to break free and find her own path. What about yours?
That's a good conflict. The clash of traditional values with exploration and freedom really emphasizes the punk part of steampunk. Maybe my character is heir apparent to a guild or a business empire, but wants to avoid his predetermined life and stay free.
Perfect. His struggle against the expectations of being an heir adds depth to his character. It'll create tension between duty and desire, making his journey even more compelling. I love how our characters will challenge the norms of their world together.
What's their connection to each other? With such synergistic aims and backgrounds, maybe they're both members of the same club of aristocratic explorers. Maybe they even created the club themselves.
That's a great idea. Our characters could have met through the club, bonding over their shared passion for exploration and disdain for societal expectations. Perhaps they were among the founding members, united by their desire for independence and discovery. This connection could also provide a network of allies and resources for them to tap into during their adventures.
They might even have access to an airship to the club. That could be a factor at some point in the story.
Yes, an airship would be such an awesome asset for their adventures. What should we name it?
I think the name should evoke 19th century naval ship naming conventions with a steampunk twist.
Let's see. How about Maelstrom Maiden? It combines the idea of a powerful storm with a nod to feminine elegance, fitting for our aristocratic explorer's airship.
Plus, it seems a little bit whimsical and tongue-in-cheek, which goes really well with the vibe of our characters. Incidentally, what shall we name them?
Great point about the whimsy. For names, I've been playing around with something like Felix Wilder for mine, and maybe Lucas Rosewood for yours.
Maybe your character is named Felicia or something conventional like that at birth, but never liked that name and uses Felix instead.
Nice. It adds a layer of rebellion to her character. The name Felicia could represent her past and societal expectations, while Felix symbolizes her true self and desire for freedom.
So Felix and Lucas met through some sort of aristocratic explorers club. What shall the name of the club be?
The Argentum Society sounds fitting. It implies wealth and discovery, and has a sense of exclusivity to it.
What does Argentum mean? Something about silver.
Exactly. Argentum is Latin for silver. It ties in nicely with the aristocratic theme and gives a touch of elegance to the club's name.
And as for cool gadgets and steampunk body modifications, do Felix and Lucas have any?
Felix could have a mechanical arm with various tools hidden inside for exploration, while Lucas might have a pair of goggles that enhance his vision or even allow him to see in different spectrums. They both could have some nifty gadgets to help them on their adventures.
I imagine Lucas being a young human man. How about Felix? Is she human or maybe some exotic mythical fantasy creature, like an elf or a fairy?
I like the idea of Felix being a half-elf. It gives her a unique edge, blending human traits with elven grace and agility. Plus, it fits well in a steampunk world, where fantasy elements can shine through.
It fits well with her character. She might feel pressured to comport herself with elven traditions and honor that side of her family heritage, but she wants to break free and live her own life on her own terms.
That internal conflict could lead to some intriguing character development. Her elven upbringing might influence her views on nature, magic, and technology, making her a valuable asset to the Argentum Society and the Maelstrom Maiden's crew.
And what's her skill set? Is she a mechanic of some kind and deals with the machines, or a medic, or a mage, or a good old-fashioned fighter with martial skills, or something else I haven't thought of?
Felix is actually a skilled botanist and alchemist, able to craft potions and remedies from the rare plants and herbs she discovers on her travels. She's also quite skilled with a bow and dagger, which comes in handy during expeditions.
So she has diverse skills and a broad knowledge base. She's kind of scholarly about rare plants and their properties, but she can handle herself in a fight.
Right. That versatility makes her a valuable member of the crew. She can support them with her knowledge, while also stepping up when things get tough.
I feel like her elfin heritage opens up the possibility that her birth name was something really exotic and unusual, which is why she goes by Felix instead, so her human friends have no trouble pronouncing it.
That's a good point. Her elven birth name could be something like Fi-an-a-rel-ti-ul. Beautiful, but difficult for humans to pronounce. No wonder she uses Felix. It's easier for everyone involved. She can still connect with her elven heritage through her full name, but using a simpler one in everyday life helps her blend in and make friends.
Also, while you were talking, I did some more reading about the elven background in the Uber RPG steampunk setting.
I'd love to hear what you found out. Any cool details that could add depth to Felix's backstory?
For one thing, elves have an ancient tradition of naturalistic magic, and their prehistoric songs could influence trees to grow in ways that help them, such as becoming staircases or houses. I'm imagining things like tree houses and forest cathedrals that are grown from the trees themselves.
That's so cool. It fits perfectly with Felix's skills in botany. Maybe she has a special connection to those ancient songs, allowing her to tap into that magic for her own creation.
They also have an ancient tradition of using druidic magic to influence trees to grow and drop a special branch, which they work into a bonded bow, and the bow only works for the one who sang it into existence.
That's a wonderful legend. It makes me think Felix might have a special weapon like that somewhere in her past, one that holds sentimental value and connects her to her elven heritage. Maybe it's even been passed down through her family.
So maybe it doesn't only work for one individual, but for that individual's descendants too. How about this special bow has a name of its own?
How about calling it Whispering Gale? It reflects the connection to nature and the ancient songs that brought it to life.
Nice. Also in this setting, modern elves love flying and tie multitudes of airships and other balloons together to create magnificent floating cities. Maybe Felix's family is connected to the land and the forest, but she wants to explore the sky.
Exactly. That conflict between her roots and her dreams could create some interesting character dynamics. It makes her journey even more compelling as she seeks to balance both worlds.
Maybe there are dynasties of elfin families with connections to different places or elements.
That's a great idea, especially if Felix's family has a long history of being guardians of the forest, which could explain why they're resistant to her desire to explore the sky. It adds depth to her rebellion against tradition. Perfect for a steampunk vibe.
As for my character, in contrast with your character, maybe he can misunderstand nature or his connection to it. Maybe he has some hubris as a human, thinking he is somehow above or separate from nature. A character flaw like that could be a good place to begin an arc. I'm picturing him with an Arthur and BBC Merlin sort of vibe. Fantasy preppy. 80s teen movie villain, but more likable and steampunk.
That sounds like a fascinating direction for Lucas. His hubris could lead to some great conflicts with Felix, who respects nature deeply. Their differing views could create some rich tension and character growth opportunities.
And it makes sense that Lucas would be a little hubristic if he grew up in a wealthy or privileged family and is heir to a thriving business.
Yeah, that explains a lot about his personality. And it raises questions about Felix's family, too. Are they wealthier and more influential than the Rosewoods? How does that affect their social standing and relationships?
Maybe the Rosewoods are new money, so to speak, and are rising through the social strata thanks to business success, whereas Felix's family derives its prestige from deeper cultural heritage, and maybe even nobility.
That's a great contrast. It adds layers to their backgrounds. Felix can feel the weight of her family's legacy, while Lucas might struggle with proving himself in a world where status is everything.
I think I have all the information I need to select character backgrounds, traits, and flaws. Those are the first steps of character creation, which happens in a very by-numbers sort of way, with nothing random. I'm not going to record us doing all of it because it will go exactly the way you'd expect. In a nutshell, it's a point-buy system. You get points and spend them on things in the way you want to build your character. How about we deal with their attributes? The core attributes are strength, wisdom, charisma, dexterity, constitution, and intelligence. All attributes start at 1. We have 20 points to spend raising attributes in whatever way we like.
Sounds good. For Felix, I'd like to prioritize dexterity and constitution. How about we put 6 points into dexterity and 5 points into constitution to start?
That makes sense. How about your remaining attribute points? How would you like to spend them?
Let's put 4 points into intelligence for her crafty skills, 3 into charisma for her charm, and 2 into strength.
I think I'll prioritize his constitution and intelligence, with some points in dexterity as well.
Great choice. How about spending 7 points on constitution, 6 on intelligence, and 3 on dexterity?
That's good. How about putting the remainder of the points in strength?
Love that. Adding the remaining 4 points to strength will definitely balance them out. Lucas and Felix will be an awesome duo.
Next, we define the so-called powers the characters have, which represent their weapons, special abilities, and any tools they have available.
I'm thinking Felix could have a talent for herbalism, allowing her to heal wounds with medicinal plants. And Lucas could have knowledge of siege warfare, letting him design innovative traps and defenses.
Nice. As to the weapons, Felix has her heirloom bow and dagger, and I imagine Lucas has an elegant cup-hilted rapier for the Victorian swashbuckling vibe.
Perfect choices. Felix's bow and dagger fit her agile style, while Lucas's rapier adds that flair. What about some special skills or abilities for them?
I think Felix's herbalism and mechanical arm, and Lucas's penchant for traps, and his special goggles are enough to start with, in terms of the abilities and tools they have. How about little gadgets? Anything useful they carry around should be included in powers.
Maybe Felix carries a medicine pouch with various remedies and a small, intricately carved wooden box containing seeds and plant samples for further study. And Lucas could have a set of fine metal instruments for repairing his rapier and some string for improvising makeshift traps.
Now we've got our characters done, let's decide where they begin the story. I have an expansion book for Uber RPG Steampunk called Urban Steampunk. Since we're using random images to inspire this game, I like the idea of using the cover of that book as our first image. The cover shows a character sitting in an elegant steampunk bar with a 4-armed clockwork robot serving drinks. Let's use that as our inspiration, and say the scene opens with Felix and Lucas sitting in a well-appointed bar on wooden stools at a polished mahogany counter, casually watching the crowd, with a clockwork robot tending bar behind them, busily mixing drinks for customers with 2 arms, taking a glass bottle down from the wall with another, shaking a shaker cup with a 4th.
I can totally picture it. The elegant bar vibe with the clockwork robot adds a fun twist.
How about they're here for an event of some kind honoring the Argentum Society? I like the idea that the club just made some sort of important discovery, or something, and they're being recognized by the aristocracy here.
I like that idea too. It would give us a chance to introduce some key figures in the aristocracy and learn more about the Argentum Society's goals and motives. Maybe Felix and Lucas have some connections to the society already, and this event sparks a new opportunity for them.
Yeah, What do you think the Argentine society just discovered, which the aristocracy deemed significant? Maybe a canal which can shorten a common trade route or something like that. Something along those lines could impact the economy of the city in a way that would make the aristocracy take notice.
A canal could be it, but maybe something even more groundbreaking, like a new source of energy or a revolutionary material that could change manufacturing. That way, the discovery has far-reaching implications that both fascinate and intimidate the aristocracy.
Interesting. The Argentine society consists of explorers, so maybe the energy or new material they discovered has natural origins, and they came across it in their travels. It could be a type of tree, which produces a resin which burns hotter and longer than any other energy source, or something. That could potentially power the steam engines, which are ubiquitous in this world.
That's a great idea. A resin-producing tree could be a game-changer for the city's energy needs. Maybe the Argentum Society found it in a remote location, and now they're trying to figure out how to cultivate it or harvest it sustainably. That could create tension between those who want to exploit the resource and those who want to preserve the environment.
Nice. The Argentum Society found a grove of these incredibly rare trees. This could easily turn into a central conflict of the story, between those who want to protect nature versus those who don't care.
Exactly. And Felix, being part of the forest-dwelling elven community, could have a strong emotional stake in preserving nature, which could create an interesting dynamic with Lucas's more pragmatic views.
And maybe the specific kind of tree in question has cultural significance to the elves, raising the stakes even more for Felix.
That adds another layer of complexity to the situation. If the tree holds sacred meaning for the elves, Felix's loyalty to her community could be tested by a growing demand for its resin.
I like this. The main energy source in the Uber RPG steampunk setting is something called Eldritch Copper, which creates arcane heat and is used for the boilers of steam engines. So the resin could upend the order of things, if somebody figured out how to get a steady supply of it. What's the tree?
Maybe a hybrid between a dragon and a tree, kind of a druid dragon, with branches and leaves growing from its body, and roots digging deep into the earth. It would be both fierce and gentle at the same time.
Nice. Having it be a fairly mundane, regular tree in modern times, but connecting it to this ancient legend about a mythical druid dragon gives the story a sort of Chekhov's gun, introducing this mythical tree which could potentially be reawakened at some point, somehow. What should the name be?
Names are always tricky, but I'd suggest something like Arbaraxes. It combines the Latin words for tree and axis, which seems fitting for a creature that connects earth and sky.
Arbaraxes it is, the dragon tree. So now we need some kind of inciting incident to kick off the story. Let's draw a random image card to get inspiration. It's an image of someone climbing over a lot of clutter, reaching for a flower. I already have some ideas about what this could mean.
Ooh, that's intriguing. Maybe it represents Felix or Lucas trying to navigate the political mess surrounding the discovery of Arbaraxes while reaching for something beautiful, a chance to protect the tree or a deeper truth about it. What are your ideas?
I was thinking in the more immediate situation. The clutter could represent the crowded party, and the flower could be literal. Maybe they're dragon tree flowers, and a mysterious person in the crowd is wearing one of those flowers on their pocket or in their hair or whatever. Felix, with her knowledge of herbalism, would recognize the flower immediately and might be fascinated by it and want to know where this person got it.
I love the idea that the dragon tree blossoms. The flowers could have different properties depending on the season they bloom in. Maybe the spring blooms grant healing properties, summer blooms enhance strength, autumn blooms promote clarity of mind.
What does the person wearing the flower look like? I imagine Felix and Lucas got a good look at them before they withdrew into the crowd and vanished from sight.
Let's make this person striking, with jet black hair and piercing emerald eyes. They wear dark, luxurious attire that's elegantly tattered, suggesting a mix of refinement and rough-around-the-edges experience. A silver pin shaped like a crescent moon adorns their lapel, adding an air of mystery.
Maybe they're connected to a secret society. We'll put a pin in that, so to speak. Would Felix get off her stool and follow this person through the room?
Yeah, Felix's curiosity gets the better of her, and she decides to take a chance, pushing through the crowd to follow the mysterious person.
I imagine this mysterious stranger as a tall, silent woman, wearing the dragon tree flower behind her ear as she moves to the crowd. Lucas sees Felix going after her, and he gets off his stool too, because he has a bad feeling about this, and he would never let Felix face danger alone.
Nice details on the stranger. The contrast of the flower against her dark hair adds to the mystery.
It seems like this mysterious stranger got Felix's and Lucas's attention on purpose. In fact, there was a Victorian custom of using flowers to communicate messages, so having the stranger use a dragon tree flower as a message to Felix is a very Victorian way to begin the story. So if the stranger is leading them somewhere on purpose, where is that? Maybe to a back exit or a side way out of the bar away from the crowd.
Love that Victorian flavor. The stranger could lead them to a hidden alleyway behind the bar, where the noise fades and shadows deepen. It's a perfect spot for secrets to unfold, and for Felix and Lucas to discover more about Arbaraxes and the stranger's intention.
I bet as they descended a narrow stairwell following this stranger, Lucas feels like they're moving into a trap, but his hubris definitely would let him back down and look cowardly, especially not in front of Felix. He'd forge ahead. Let's draw another random image card to interpret the next event, as Felix and Lucas step into the shadowy alley outside the bar. It's an image of anthropomorphic garlic, dressed in a black cape with a cravat. It looks like a stereotypical vampire. Interesting. How do you interpret that?
Haha, that's hilarious. The garlic could symbolize protection against danger or a hidden threat. Maybe as Felix and Lucas step into the alley, they encounter a quirky character who offers them advice or a warning about the mysterious stranger. This character could be a local herbalist or eccentric, adding some humor while also hinting at the supernatural elements lurking nearby.
An eccentric, hidden protection, and supernatural elements. Maybe as they step into the alley, they walk past a well-known local eccentric tramp, sitting to one side, and he says something, but they're distracted, and he's such a familiar presence that they pay no particular attention as they walk towards the stranger at the far end of the alleyway, with her back to them. As they approach, she whirls around, leaping forward, revealing she's a vampire. She comes flying at them with her arms out and her mouth wide. The tramp unexpectedly leaps between them and the incoming vampire and throws the long coat aside, revealing that he's some sort of supernatural creature as well.
Nice. Considering the steampunk vibe, the tramp revealing himself to be a golem would fit perfectly. Its mechanical body contrasting with the vampire's organic powers.
Maybe he's some sort of clockwork golem, implying he was built by someone and placed deliberately as a guardian or watchman. The answers about who placed him here and why could reveal a lot, though of course Felix and Lucas have no time to ponder these questions in the heat of the moment as the vampire bears down on them.
I love the clockwork golem idea. As the vampire charges, the golem could spring into action, showcasing its unique abilities to defend Felix and Lucas. They'll have to think fast and decide whether to fight or flee and unravel the mystery of the golem's purpose later.
I think Lucas would want to stay and fight because he knows if they flee, they won't get any answers about all of this. How about Felix? Does she want to know what the connection between the vampire and the dragon tree is? So much that she's willing to stand her ground right now.
Absolutely. Felix's curiosity and determination to uncover the truth would definitely push her to stand her ground. She might feel a strong connection to the dragon tree and believe this confrontation is key to understanding her own role in everything.
It's a battle then. The Final Fantasy swirl effect happens. On screen, the fight music starts. Getting a resolution to this is definitely an RPG system thing, not an horror thing. But before we deal with the fight mechanics, let's draw another random image card to see if any other unexpected elements are added to the situation as it descends into chaos. It's an image of a spooky forest with beams of light coming through the canopy, piercing the gloom. There are ghosts flying around the branches, leaving trails of fog. How do you interpret that in this context?
The image of a spooky forest seems out of place at first, but considering the supernatural elements already present, maybe the fight is about to take a surreal turn. The beams of light could represent a power source or energy that affects the combatants.
That gives me an idea, actually. Let's have a round or two of combat play out before we implement my idea, though, because it relates to the end of the battle.
Sounds like a plan. Let's get into the thick of it.
Combat in Uber RPG Steampunk is very simple and streamlined. Attacking somebody is the same as doing anything with any skill or tool, where the basic principle is whatever attribute you're using plus your power equals the number of d6s you roll in your dice pool. On those d6s, rolling a 6 is great, rolling 5 is good, rolling 2 to 4 is neutral, rolling 1 is bad. In combat, your opponent's attributes factor into your dice pool as you attempt to attack them. So your opponent's defenses, your attempt to hit, and the damage you do are all combined in one roll. Right now, I think it's fair to say there's a possibility of our side being surprised by how this is going. We'll roll for a surprise first, because that may affect things in the initial round. That takes a perception roll from whoever is the most perceptive on our side. I think that's Felix, with her elfiness, which gives her +2 on perception. So she'll roll, and mechanically they aren't suffering any penalties from surprise. I guess that makes sense. We saw with the bartender that robots aren't special or unexpected in this world, and they did come into the situation expecting a trap.
Felix will draw her bow and take a quick shot at the vampire. Let's see if she can land a hit before it gets too close. How many d6s does she get?
Ranged weapons use dexterity. Then we would add 2 for her bow, and the bonus she gets using ranged weapons. But she's trying to hit a moving target, which is -2 dice. Here we go. She has a 6 and a 5 in her dice pool. A 5 is 1 success, and a 6 usually means 2 successes. But thanks to her rapid shot ability, she gets 3 successes from a 6 when shooting at a target.
Felix learned that ability from her archery teacher back in the forest. What kind of damage did she end up doing with those 4 successes?
She hit the vampire in the shoulder, making it veer off and crash into some debris in the alley. Lucas will now close in and attack with his rapier. 2 successes. He strikes true, and the vampire assassin leaps back, well aware that the tide has turned, and she's outnumbered by competent foes. Now my idea from that image before. The golem throws open a tiny door on his chest, revealing the blistering heat of a furnace compartment inside himself, which is powering his steam engines. Spears of harsh light fall on the vampire's face, and she screams. She turns, covers herself, and flits away, vanishing into the darkness. Lucas and Felix stand in the alley, catching their breath.
Felix could turn to the golem and say something like, "Hey there, clockwork friend. What's your story? Why were you helping us?" The golem's voice is low and rumbling. It replies, "I was crafted by Professor Elwes, a brilliant mind with a passion for innovation. He built me to protect those who cannot defend themselves."
Maybe that's a sort of automatic reply, pre-programmed in the machine. It could be that the golem isn't actually sapient and can't elaborate on the bigger picture. I think Lucas is smart enough to figure out that that's what's happening here. I think he's also smart enough to figure out that they've just stumbled into a conflict between two secret societies. He doesn't know what the societies are, but one involves vampires, and one involves an inventor named Professor Elwes. And apparently, whatever their goals are, they're both interested in the Argentum Society.
Maybe there's a connection with the dragon tree and the alternative energy source. We should investigate Professor Elwes further. Where would they find him? Would he have an office or laboratory tied to the university? Or might he have a private workshop in town?
If he's a brilliant inventor and innovator, maybe he has a reputation in academic circles. They could try asking about him at the university. Maybe somebody knows about him or where he might be.
Perfect. The university sounds like the right place to start. They could meet some quirky professors or eager students who might have insights about Elwes. It'll be fun to see what clues they uncover.
I think that's a perfect cliffhanger to end this session. The resolution of that fight with the vampire, and a clear direction for the characters to go from here.
Totally. Ending on that note leaves us with so many questions. I think the societies might be after the dragon tree to harness its energy for their own agendas. Maybe the vampires want to control it for power, while Elwes and his society aim to use it for innovation and sustainability. I'm already thinking about where we can take the story next. Maybe Felix and Lucas stumble upon a hidden underground chamber beneath the university, filled with artifacts and texts related to the dragon tree. We can weave in tales of the ancient civilization that worshiped the dragon tree and its mystical powers.
Maybe we should pick this back up as a Halloween special, since there would be vampires, magic artifacts, in a subterranean chamber beneath the university. Until next time.
See you, Space Cowboy.